Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Alex Demarjan, a game studies professor and professional game developer. Today, I want to talk a little bit about something that can feel disheartening, but it's often misunderstood, and that's layoffs in the game industry and how companies reset and reevaluate their budgets for hiring. Now, if you've ever faced a layoff or been let go after what felt like your dream job, I want to assure you it's not often what it seems. And I've been at the management level at a couple studios, so I got to see a little bit of really what's happening, at the higher level. Now, there's often more going on behind the scenes than meets the eye. And many times it's less about your abilities and more about the timing, priorities, and the budget of the studio. So a lot of times it really couldn't be you as a lousy artist or programmer or whatever. So let's talk a little bit about why layoffs happens. Studios often reset their budgets at specific times. At the beginning of a fiscal year, after a project wraps, or when a project pivots in scope. During these times, companies may reevaluate their hiring decisions to determine who fits their long term plans. Studios sometimes hire a wave of new people for projects or ideas that are still in development, and they use that time to test out not just the idea itself, but also the team. And they're looking to see who works the hardest, who adapts to the studio culture, who has the skill set to thrive in such a fast paced environment. And a lot of times, if you're the type of person who is always there to help other folks and is just a really cool person, you end up making the grade because they can see you as management. Because a good manager or a good lead is somebody who can teach and train up new employees. But unfortunately, not everyone makes the cut. But here's something I've seen time and time again. Being let go also doesn't mean that the studio thinks you're a failure. So with that said, layoffs aren't always the end, right? I know people who they faced their first layoff and they changed careers together even though they love the job and they love the career. And at many times, studios I've worked at, I've seen people let go because their skill set wasn't quite there yet, or because their portfolio didn't fully show what they could do. But many of those people were hired back later, or they went to work at another studio that was maybe a little bit smaller studio. They built up their skills there, and then they came back and got even more money than before, or more prestige, or a higher title. Now, the reason for that is really growth over time. Sometimes a person just needs more time to grow. A studio might let someone go because they're not ready, but that doesn't mean they won't be ready again in the future. A lot of times, too, portfolios are sort of incomplete. Your portfolio might have gotten you in the door, but it may not have fully demonstrated your speed, your adaptability, or your ability to handle the studio workload. So once you improve those skills, the doors can open again. So there's also like project specific hiring, which I've been part of, and students often hire for specific projects. And when those projects end or change direction, they may have to let people go. And there's this really ugly saying that's sort of true in that it's not personal, it's just business. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you find yourself laid off, it's easy to feel like a failure. But let me tell you this, a layoff doesn't define you. And again, I've been close to layoffs, and I left the game industry to go into teaching as a professor, things like that. And again, I just used that time to regroup, regrow, and then I ended up making twice as much money when I went back in. So how can you turn this setback into actually a really golden opportunity? Well, use this time to almost enter like a monk-like state. I love talking about monks. Reflect and improve. Take time to reflect on your experience. What feedback did you get? What areas could you improve on? Use this opportunity to level up your skills and refine your portfolio. Maybe look at key areas if you're an artist. So if you've been modeling for a long time and your texture painting skills felt weak, maybe spend that time texture painting. What I would often do is I would take 3-month cycles of my life, and I would spend those 3 months just focusing on a specific art skill. That's what actually led me to becoming more of a technical artist. Is I was like, okay, I'm going to spend this year programming. I'm going to spend this 6-month cycle painting. Also, you want to stay connected, LinkedIn, whatever the social media stuff is. But remember, LinkedIn is social media, so you don't want to spend too much time on there looking at any of the doomsday stuff people are saying. And with that said, post good stuff. Maintain good relationships with people you worked with. Many studios hire back people they've let go when the timing is right. And those relationships can be your ticket back in. And to be honest with you, many of the studios, people I've worked with in the past who I've really had great relationships with, they actually ended up being really great people moving on to big name studios like Netflix. Also, you want to keep building. Use your downtime to build projects and participate in game jams or collaborate with others. Show studios that you're growing and stay active in the industry. There's this saying in many religions, I know it's certainly in the Christian one, where it's like, show what someone does. Really, I guess to paraphrase extremely poorly, look at what somebody does in their spare time, not during the day. So during the day, they might be phenomenal at work, but in their downtime, they have some other vices that are really steering them away from things and actually end up hurting their work during the daytime. So you wouldn't be that person that does have good balance. You spend time with your family, you're loving, but also you're working on projects in your spare time. Many of the biggest studios I went into interviews for, they were more interested in the portfolio pieces that I was doing on my own than the stuff I was doing at work. And again, please, please, please don't take it personally. Remember, layoffs are often budgets, timing, and project needs. It's not about your worth or potential, even though it could feel that way. It's like being in a bad relationship. The rejection itself lasts with you for years. So let me share a story of someone. It's sort of like, again, paraphrasing a lot, of someone I worked with. They were hired on at a studio for a specific project, but after months they were let go. Their portfolio was excellent, but their speed wasn't quite there and what it needed to be. Instead of giving up, they spent the next 6 months working on their skills. They joined game jams, improved their workflow, and stayed in touch with their former teammates. When another project came up, the studio brought them back on. This time they excelled and became a permanent part of the team. This is the reality of the game industry. It's not about never failing. It's about how you rise after each fall. So here are my final thoughts. Layoffs can feel like the end of the world, but they're often just a stepping stone in your journey. The key is to use the experience as motivation to grow, improve, and stay connected. Remember, many studios are willing to bring back people when the time is right, especially if they see you've taken the time to sharpen your skills. And you might not even want to go back to that studio. You might get a job at a better studio or at a better company making more money. And actually, maybe you'll just be happy. A lot of times my friends don't even leave for higher level positions or more money because they have great life balance and just great jobs at the studio they're at. And again, success in this industry isn't a straight path. It's a winding road with ups and downs. But if you stay persistent, keep learning, and focus on growth, you'll find your way back. Thank you for taking my class. Please keep creating. And I just hope overall life is good for you. And maybe you never even face a layoff, which would be absolutely wonderful. Take care.